2020 has been a bit of an interesting year for streaming, don't you think? I mean, Netflix is making a bit of a killing at the moment. We've just had Disney Plus come out. There's more streaming services to be released later in the year. And we've just had a whole new contender to the market, Quibi, which seems to be doing something completely different and certainly something that we haven't seen before on the streaming service market. Now, let me be fair, Quibi's idea of bite-sized content on your phone isn't anything new. I mean, let's face it, YouTube has been doing this for well over a decade now, and literature has been doing it for centuries with serials in magazines and newspapers. So really, it's nothing new to anyone's eyes, but it's the first time that we've seen such a massive budget go behind an idea like this, and that's where Quibi does have something interesting to offer. Now, there's a lot to like about Quibi. Admittedly, I'd like it a lot more if I wasn't in lockdown, because the whole service is pretty much tailored to people commuting. The fact that you can hold your phone upright and still watch something optimized for a portrait mode and then flip over to landscape at any given moment is amazing. It's perfect for commuters. And the jump is pretty seamless as well. I never feel like I've been getting less of a show by jumping to portrait mode. You do have a zoomed in focus on the facial expressions of the actors, which actually can make for quite a compelling watch. Plus, there's a 90-day free trial, which means that's plenty of time to get through most of the content that's on there, particularly as it's short form anyway. And speaking of content, I can definitely recommend going on there just to watch Most Dangerous Game. It's a constantly moving thriller about a man who's being hunted over a 24-hour period, all with the intent of earning enough money to support his pregnant wife, in the midst of him realizing that he's diagnosed with cancer. There's a lot going on, but it's an amazing series to watch and definitely worth signing up to Quibi for, even if it's just for the free trial. Unlike Netflix, Quibi also uses a more streamlined interface, one that doesn't have that typical library of content that you see on Disney Plus, Netflix, Now TV. It's more streamlined just to focus on you looking at one piece of content at a time, so you actually read what it's about, you get an idea, if you like it, you jump in, if not, move on to something else. But I feel like it just works a lot better for actually giving you an idea of what's on the platform. I mean, so many of us spend so many countless hours scrolling through Netflix and never actually finding anything to watch, and I feel like the way Quibi handles its user interface is just a much better way of doing it. Of course, it's not all good points with Quibi. There's the obvious elephant in the room with the timing of its release. I mean, this is a service that is aimed specifically, or at the very least, has commuters in mind, and no one's commuting anywhere. We're all in lockdown. So whether or not Quibi survives beyond the lockdown remains to be seen, but I do think it's worth signing up for in the meantime, especially because it doesn't cost you anything for those 90 days anyway. And then there's something to be said for some of the content that's on the service. I mean, so far, most of it tends to be pretty good, but I've run into a couple of things that are just a little questionable. I mean, one show in particular is called Murder House Flip, which is just this strange and bizarre combination of two genres trying to be squished together to appeal to a broader demographic. Those who like true crime series, but those who also like house renovation shows. It's a very strange mix, and I found myself watching it thinking, what is this? Who is this for? I don't think it blends either particularly well, and it's just so jarring to hear anyone talk about renovating a house when they're also talking about the dead body that was buried underneath where they were standing several years ago. It's just very strange. After having spent time with Quibi, I do feel that the service can take off, and it does have a promising future if it can keep a stellar line of content constantly being released for its service. I know that the company has finally bowed to pressure by, at some point, allowing for TV support, but it's a shame. I do feel as though Quibi works best when it's on mobile, and I don't think as many people would have complained about the lack of TV compatibility if we were still going about our day-to-day lives and commuting. I think the voices on that side of the equation would have been far fewer, but here we are, and whether or not that takes off remains to be seen. I hope Quibi does stand the test of time, because it's nice to have competition, especially given that Netflix for so long just dominated the scene, and we're finally seeing competition brought to Netflix's doorstep, but it just remains to be seen what happens from here on out. Have you been using Quibi? Well, I want to hear about it. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's any good? Do you think it's going to stand the test of time? Well, let me know in the comments section. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe? It doesn't cost you anything and it makes my day. I will much appreciate it and send it forth in good karma, somehow or another.